Alright, welcome to the next lesson, and this lesson is about factorizing. So factorizing, what I like to think about it is as just putting it in brackets. Okay, so last lesson we did expanding, which was getting rid of brackets. This is factorizing, it's the opposite, it's putting it back into brackets. So let's do the first question. So you can see we have 4x squared minus 24x, right? So first you got two terms, and what you guys have to do is find common factors between both. Okay, first let's look at the numbers. 4 and 24, what's the common factor between both of them? Well, you can probably tell it's 4. Right? So let's take 4 out first. So if you take 4 out, right, because 4 is a common factor. So factors, by the way, if you guys didn't know, factors are numbers that multiply to the original number. So factors of 24 are 1 and 24, 2 and 6, 3 and 8. That took me way too long. I'm so sorry. 3 and 8, and then 4 and 6. 6 times 4 is 24. So you can see, and the other number is 4 over here. So factors of 4 is just 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. Right? What's the common factor? The common factor you can see is 4 and 4 is common. We always take the highest one possible. I can see that 2 is common, but we always take the highest one possible. So let's do it. So you take 4 outside, then you have x squared. What you have to do is, whatever you're taking out, this is the 4 you're taking out, you divide the term by whatever you're taking out. So 4 divided by 4 is just x squared, minus, and you divide this by whatever you're taking out as well. So minus 24 divided by 4 is 6x, right? So whatever you're taking out, you divide each term by that. Okay, next. Is there any other common factor? Well, we're done with the numbers, so let's look at the letters, right? The common factor between both the letters, both the x squared and the x, is x. X is a common factor, so you can take the x out. So if you take x out, you take this divided by x. X squared divided by x is just x. Minus, you divide this by x. 6x divided by x is just 6. So that's your final factorization. Now you can do all of this in one step. Okay, so if you realize, like the other way to do it is, if you realize straight away the 4x is a common factor in both of them, you can take it out from the very start, and then you can do 4x squared divided by 4x to get the first term, which is obviously x. And then you can do negative 24x on 4x to get the second term, which is negative 6. Right, so you can do it straight away. So I'll demonstrate with this example. So you have 3z squared minus 15yz. You can do it straight away if you realize what's the common factor. Well, between 3 and 15, the common factor is 3. Between z squared and yz, the letters, z is a common factor. So I can take out 3z straight away. Z, z, however you say it. It's up to you. I call it z. So let's stick with it. So the first term is you take this term over here and divide by whatever you're taking out is 3z. So what's 3z squared divided by 3z? 3 and 3 cancel out. Z squared divided by z is just z. And then you take, again, same thing. You take this term and divide by whatever you're taking out, 3z. 3 goes into 15 5 times, so minus 5. And then z and z cancel, you're left with 5y. Okay, so that's the basics of factorizing. You guys have been doing this since probably year 8, 9, and 10 as well. So if you don't understand, I just explained it, so watch it again if you didn't understand. Let's go. How would you do this question, guys? What's the common factor? Well, let's see. Between 10 and 5, we'll start with the numbers. The common factor is 5. Okay? And between the letters, so AB squared and A squared B, what's the common factor? Can you get it? It's AB. AB is the common factor because there's an A in there and there's a B in there we can take out. So you do the same thing. You divide by whatever you're taking out is 5AB. So 5 and 10 5 goes into 10 twice. And then A and A cancel out. And then B squared on B is just B. Okay? Plus, you do the same thing. You take the second term divided by 5AB. So 5 and 5 cancel out straight away. A squared divided by A is just A. And then B and B cancel out. So you have 2B plus A left. So that's the basics. That's the basics of factorizing. Okay, using the common factor. Now, there's another form of factorizing. It's called factorizing by grouping. Okay, so when it says do this question by factorizing by grouping, this is what you do. What you do, guys, is you take the first two terms. Okay, so 3x squared minus 6x, and you factorize the first two, right? What's the common factor in both of them? It's 3x is the common factor, right? And what's inside the brackets? 3x squared divided by 3x is x. Negative 6x divided by 3x is minus 2. Okay, so you take out 3x. Then you do the exact same thing to the second two terms, right? 2x minus 4, right? So if you you leave the plus there, this plus just comes down. Then what's the common factor? It's 2, so you take 2 out, x minus 2, right? Because you divide this by 2 and you divide this by 2, right? Now, what do you notice? Again, what you have here, guys, is two terms. One term, two term here. Now, what is the common factor in this term, in both of these terms? Well, you can see clearly that x minus 2 and x minus 2 are multiplying, right, over here. They're multiplying. On the left side, it's multiplying 3x. On the right side, it's multiplying 2, like so, right? So what we can do, because x minus 2 is common, right, we can take it outside just like we've been doing so far. It's a factor, right? It's a number that multiplies to make the whole term. So what we can do is take the x minus 2 out, right? That's a common factor. And now we take this side and you divide by x minus 2. So x minus 2 cancel, you're left with 3x, okay? And then you do the same thing. You take the right side, divide by x minus 2, x minus 2 cancel, you're left with plus 2, right? So this is factorizing by grouping. So you factorize the first two, you factorize the second two, and then you take out the common factor, which in this case is x minus 2. Let's do another example, it will make more sense. So again, factorizing by grouping, what you do, you factorize the first two out, right? What's common factor? Well, there's a negative there, and there's pretty much a -1 and a 3. Okay, always take the negatives out first if you can. So it'd be, what's a common factor in this one is -1 is common factor between 3 and -1, and x squared as well you can take out, right? Because common factor between x cubed and x squared is just x squared. So what you're left with is x plus 3 if you do division. Then you factorize the second two over here. What's a common factor between 2x squared and minus 6x? Well, it's 2x, and it's going to be x, and then x minus, or this should be a plus, sorry guys. So it's 2x squared plus 6x. That's the question. I messed it up, my bad. But if you take it out, it'll be plus 3, x plus 3. So you'll notice something. You can see x plus 3 and x plus 3 are common in both, right? So then what we can do is we can factorize the x plus 3 out. So if you take x plus 3 out, x plus 3, then what are you left with? If you divide this by x plus 3, you're left with just this part, which is negative x squared. And you take out x plus 3, you divide, what you're left with is just this part, plus 2x. Okay, that's factorizing by grouping. We'll do a whole bunch more when we're factorizing non-monic trinomials. That's 2.4. So we'll do more of this. So if you don't understand, don't worry, we'll go through it a fair bit more again. All right, let's move on to the last form of factorizing we're going to do this lesson. So a plus b, a minus b. Guys, last lesson in 2.1, we learned a squared minus b squared, right? Remember we learned. Now, I told you here to here was expanding, right? This is expanding. But if you do the opposite, guys, what's the opposite of expanding? I told you at the very start of this lesson is factorizing, right? So in other words, our rule is a squared minus b squared. We can write as, if you factorize a plus b times a minus b. That's it. So let's try and factorize this one. X squared minus 3 squared. So this is a is our x, is just x, and b is our 3, like so, right? So we just literally just sub it into the formula. So we have this is equal to a, which is x, plus b, which is 3, and a, which is x, minus b, which is minus 3, like so. It's really simple. Next, we'll do the same thing. We can see, guys, this time we don't have a square number, right? We just have x squared minus 16, but we can make it into a square number. How? Right? X squared. What I'm going to do is square root it and then square root again, right? Because you guys remember the rule, if you did surds, square root of a whole thing squared is just a, right? So I can kind of work backwards and say a is just root a whole thing squared, like so, right? Also, then I can write this is the same as x squared minus what's square root of 16? Square root of 16 is 4 squared, right? X squared minus 4 squared. And then it becomes exactly like the question we did up here. So a is x, b is 4, and so this is factorized is x plus 4, so a plus b, and x minus 4, a minus b. All right, so I hope you understand. Let's keep going. So this time you'll notice, guys, there's no square number. This actually is a 3 and a 12, right? You can't square root that, right? Because there's no square root of 12. So even if I did 3x squared minus root 12 whole thing squared, like I showed you in the previous question, root 12 is a set. It's ugly. We don't like it. So when you have questions like this, what you can do is take out the common factor first, right? Like we did at the very, very start of this lesson. So what's the common factor between 3x squared and negative 12? Well, it's 3. So let's take 3 out. 3 x squared minus 4. So now we just got to factorize this one. So we do the same thing I did in the previous question. 3x squared minus, so you square root this number and you square root again, like we did before. What's square root of 4? Square root of 4 is 2 squared, like so. So pretty much our a is x, b is 2, and you sub it into a plus b, a minus b. So x plus 2, x minus 2. And you'll notice this 3 just stays out at the side the entire time. Okay, boom, that's it. This question, same thing. Okay, so obviously 7 is not a square number, and 175, there's no, even if you square root it, it's not any whole number. So what you can do instead is take the 7 out, right? X squared. Now, what's negative 175 divided by 7? It's 7 times 20 is 140, so it would be 25. Okay, so x squared minus 25. Okay, so then factorize as normal. 7x squared, 25. I'm going to square root 25 and square it again, like we did before. So that's going to be 7x squared minus 5 squared. Okay, so this is our a, this is our b. We're ready to factorize. 7x plus 5 and x minus 5. A plus b, a minus b. Boom, that's it. Okay, these two questions are a little bit different though. You'll notice, right? 4 is a square number and 16 is also a square number. So when yes, you can take the 4 out and say y squared minus 4x squared. Yes, you can do that. But when both of them are square numbers, you can also do another thing, and I'm going to show you now. What I'm going to do is square root both of them and square it. So I'm going to say square root 4y squared, whole thing squared, minus square root 16x squared, whole thing squared. Just exactly how I did it to this root 25. Square root it and then square it again. Okay, so let's talk about what this means. Root 4y squared. What is root 4y squared? Root 4y squared is nothing but root 4 times root y squared. Right? If I just split it up, because they're multiplying, there's a third law which says I can split it up. Root 4 is 2 and root y squared is just y. So I'm just left with 2y. So root 4y squared is just nothing but 2y whole thing squared. That's it. And similarly, I'm going to simplify root 16x squared. Okay, what is root 16x squared? Root 16x squared is nothing but root 16 multiplied by root x squared. Root 16 is 4 times x squared is just x. So it's going to be 4x. So root 16x squared is 4x. Pretty much the shortcut is you root the first one, you root the second one. Right? So pretty much you have your, you can see a and b, a squared minus b squared. So your final answer would be a plus b, so 2y plus 4x, and a minus b, 2y minus 4x, right? So pretty much this question, if you have square numbers straight away, right, you can pretty much square root it and square it straight away. So it's a bit different how we did these questions where we took out a common factor. Okay, another question. So you can see it's a square number. Both the 36 and 81 are square numbers. So let's do the same tactic. Square root 36a squared, whole thing squared, minus square root 81b squared, whole thing squared. So root square root of 36 is 6, square root of a squared is a. So it's 6a squared. Minus square root of 81 is 9, square root of b squared is just b, so minus 9b squared. So this is your a, this is your b. So you do 6a plus b, which is 9b, and then 6a minus 9b. And that's your answer. Okay, so that's done. Let's look at this question. This one's a little bit more interesting. So you can see now you have multiple terms. I'm going to change this a bit. I'm going to get rid of that 16. So you just have this x plus 3 squared minus y squared. What does this mean? Can you still use the same formula? Well, yes, you can, guys. Pretty much, instead of a just being one term, a is this whole thing here. X plus 3 is a, and y is pretty much your b value, right? So you still use the same formula, a plus b times a minus b, right? You still use this, a plus b, a minus b, right? But this time a is just a couple of different terms. So it's a, which is x plus 3, plus b, which is y, and then x plus 3, a, minus b, which is minus y. Boom, a plus b, a minus b. Same thing, even though there's multiple terms. So now let's think about what happens if I put a number in. What did I say? If you have a square number and a squared variable, you can square root it, 36y squared, and then square it again. Minus, and then same, this just comes down. 2y plus 4 whole thing squared. So what is this going to be? We talked about this, we just did it. Root square root of 36 is 6, square root of y squared is just y. So 6y whole thing squared. Minus 2y plus 4 whole thing squared. Okay, so you notice, what do you have again? We have, this is our a value, and this is our b value. B value is just two different terms. So we'll do it. Let's use our rule, a plus b, so 6y plus 2y plus 4, so a plus b, and then a 6y minus b, so minus 2y plus 4, a minus b. Okay, but you'll notice a little bit, guys, we can keep simplifying this. You can see clearly 6y plus 2y, right? So in the previous question, right, there was no common variables. There's no like terms, so we couldn't simplify. But in this question, you'll notice both of them are y and y. What's 6y plus 2y? It's 8y plus 4. And 6y minus 2y is 4y plus 4, like so. So that's it. Okay, last topic, surds, right? So this time you'll notice we have x squared minus 3. We need to factorize this, but you can see clearly 3 is not a square number. But we can still do the same tactic I've been teaching you this whole lesson, which is if you have x squared, I'm going to square root this 3 and then square root again, right? This time we just can't simplify this, right? So we just leave it as square root 3. In other words, it still remains the same. This is x, so this is a, and this is b. So you still use the same formula. It's going to be a plus b, so x plus root 3 this time because b is root 3, and x minus root 3. Simple as that. So again, here, next question. Okay, first, neither of these are square numbers. If they're not square numbers, what do you do first? Then you take out the common factor. What's the common factor? It's 2. So you have 2y squared minus 4x squared. So it's common factor. Then you can see one of these is square number, but this is not a square number. So we still have to do the same thing. 2 square root this, 5y squared, whole thing squared, minus 4x squared, you square root it, and then square root again. Boom, like so. So it's going to be 2. Okay, what's this? Square root 5, we can't do square root 5, right? So we'll leave it as square root 5, but we can do square root of y squared. Square root of y squared is just y. So it's 5 times y squared, like that. Okay, I'll explain on the side because it's a little confusing to understand. So if you have square root y squared, I can write this as root 5 times root y squared. I can split it up. So root 5 stays the same, but root y squared is just y. So that's how I got root 5 times y squared. And this is the same as always what we've been doing so far. Square root of 4 is just 2. Square root of x squared is just x. And that's just being squared. So this converts this. Boom. So now we have our a. This is our a. And this is our b. So we plug it into the formula. This 2 just comes down. So 2a, which is root 5 times y on the outside, plus b, which is 2x. And a, which is root 5 y minus b, 2x, minus 2x. That's it. Okay, a little bit complicated, but it's pretty simple. All right, last question. Almost done. You got there. All right, so again, with these questions, neither of these is a square number. 3 is not a square number. 27 is not a square. So what do? You can factorize common factors. What's a common factor? You can see in this question, 3a is a common factor. Yeah, 3a is a common factor. So if you take 3a out, it will be x squared minus 3a divided, so this divided by 3a is just 9, x squared minus 9, right? So you can take out multiple terms. So this is really easy now, right? Because we got rid of the a and this is 9, right? So this is easy. What I do, 3a is nothing but x squared minus, I'm going to square root it and then square it again. Same exact thing I've been doing this whole time. So you have 3a x squared minus square root of 9 is 3. So 3 squared. And I'm left with this is going to be, this is a, this is b. So you have 3a, a plus b, x plus 3, and a minus b, x minus 3. Boom, that's it. All right, so that's kind of the basics of factorizing. We're going to do more factorizing in the next couple lessons. I hope you understood everything. I'll see you soon.